Okay, awesome, Rainbow Falls. So there's this huge flying competition coming up. Remember, for the equestrian games, they're going to have teams, right? So just like, in the Olympics, you have teams for different countries, right? So Cloudsdale, remember, is the place where all the Pegasus live, Cloudsdale. And then there's Ponyville, right? And Rainbow Dash, she's from Cloudsdale, but she lives in Ponyville. And she really, really likes to win. I mean, it's just her thing, right? She loves it. And so she's like originally on the Ponyville team, and she's working, there's this guy called Bulk Biceps and then Fluttershy, right? And both of these two are not very good flyers. Now, she's trying her best, She's training Bulk, she's training Fluttershy, and she's trying to show them how to be like the best flyers ever. And they're doing their best, right? And they're connecting with each other, they're building relationships, they're doing their thing. But, it's just she's got a little bit less to work with. And then in Cloudsdale, they have like top Wonderbolts on their flight team, and they're like ridiculously good. And so there's a little bit of a conflict just at the beginning here with Rainbow Dash, because like she really wants to stay loyal to her friends. She really wants to stay true to her relationships and to the people around her and to the community that has helped her for so long. But her problem is but these guys are super good at flying, and I really, really want to win. And so what happens is they go to this practice ground, this training ground, and people in Cloudsdale, they say, hey, Rainbow Dash, you should come join our team and be part of the Cloudsdale team, which she really, really wants to do. But then she realizes if she does that, all of her friends are going to be so sad, and it'll be the worst thing ever, right? And so she doesn't want to disappoint, all the people in her life. But at the same time, she doesn't think they'll be able to qualify for the games if she just keeps staying on the team with the bad flyers. And so it's tough to in a span of a week or two change someone's entire physical skill like a sport like this, right? Where they Fluttershy, she never flies, right? So it's like a tough little new situation for everyone there. And so what she does is she looks at the situation, she steps back, and she says, okay, well, I got to make a decision here. And her decision is she either goes with Ponyville or she goes with Cloudsdale. Now, to her, this is a really, really tough decision to make, and for good reason, right? It would seriously hurt her friends if she left, but it would seriously hurt her if she stayed, because she wouldn't win, right? And so, or at least that's what she thinks, right? So she makes the decision not to decide, and she comes to practice the next day, and she's sitting in a wheelchair, saying that she hurt her wing and fell and had this huge crash, and that she won't be able to participate. She has a fake cast and her legs bandaged up. It's pretty deep. And her wing had a cast. And she's oh, I can't participate. I hurt myself. And so she decides that she will not decide and that she won't go on either team. It's just insane. And so because of that, all of a sudden, both of these guys are pissed now, right? Because neither of them have a leader. Neither of them have hers on their team, and they don't know what to do. No one knows what to do. And then so Twilight comes in, and she kind of realizes, look, you can't just decide not to decide. You've got to pick what you want to do and stick with it. Indecision is the destroyer of success. You must decide quickly and stick with that decision, and you can't just do nothing because she's got to fly, right? It's one or the other. And she's just delaying the inevitable. Remember, we talked about this earlier. This idea that the decision is much easier to make at the beginning, but if you delay or if you procrastinate, you don't actually do it, it's a much more difficult barrier to break down earlier. Because now she's got to admit to everybody that she lied and that she isn't actually hurt and that this was all phony because she just wasn't able to pick the right team, which is going to be a much more difficult situation than if she just decided early on, or if she maybe even just opened up with someone. So she opened up with Twilight. She was smart, in that regard. She talked to Twilight. She said, Twilight, what should I do? And she says, you got to pick. Not very helpful advice, but it's the truth, right? She needs to make a decision. And for her, this decision will affect, the people that she's around, and it'll affect, how she thinks she'll perform, which is serious, and it matters to her. And so because of that, she sticks to her ground. She does the right thing. She makes a temporary sacrifice of potential so that she can maintain her friends and help them feel better about themselves, right, and make them happy. And she says, you know what? After a lot of thinking, I'm going to cut Cloudsdale. I know I can't race with the Wonderbolts, but I'm going to, this is all fake. I'm not really hurt. And I'll come and race with Ponyville, right? So that's the decision that she makes. And she did a great job, right? She stuck with her principles. She stuck with her guns. She stuck with her friends. She stuck with her power base. And she made them feel amazing. And then what she did was really cool. First of all, remember, before we get into this part, like when you're able to walk away from something that you want, it makes it 10 times easier to actually get there in the future. So for her, she wanted to be a Wonderbolt, and this would be her chance to fly with the Wonderbolts. She was able to walk away from that. She was willing to walk away from that. It's going to make it so much easier for her to get there in the future. Now, similarly, as she comes back to her friends and her family and the people that love her, know her, she says, look, you know what? We're going to be the best ever. She brings in a ridiculous amount of newfound confidence and excitement and drive for the whole team. And instead of focusing on herself, she focuses on how she can help her teammates get better. And she focuses on how she can train them. Not train herself, train them. And have the biggest impact possible on these teammates, right? So that they have the best time together. And they perform, maybe not like at 10,000 miles an hour, because she's not expecting them to perform as fast as the Wonderbolts, but she's expecting them to perform at their best. And so they go to the tryouts. And at the tryouts, these two are definitely slower than Rainbow Dash, but Rainbow Dash is like ridiculously fast. And so they do, the best they can do, and they give it all they've got. And at the tryouts, they're not as fast as Cloudsdale because they're all Wonderbolts, but she goes ridiculously fast. She does an amazing job and really pulls the team forward, pulls the team together, and pushes them to have a really quick time. And by doing that, all of a sudden, they actually qualified. So they made it, and they qualified for the games. Because Rainbow Dash is such a good flyer, she was able to bring the team to that next level. And that showed these guys that she's freaking insane, and it's going to make them want to work with her much more in the future. And it also shows that she sticks to her guns, she sticks to her friends, because you've got to stick with your friends. You can't sacrifice temporary gain for a long-term destruction of relationships, right? Like, could you imagine if she had this temporary gain and then her entire friendship was just crushed? It would be awful. And that's pretty much like the exact situation you're looking at here. You've got to make the right decision and take that short-term pain for long-term gain. Because the instant that you do that, everything changes and you have the best future outcome possible, and you therefore can realize your maximum potential, which is the dream. And so that's why it's super cool. Only take other things she could have done differently is to make that decision earlier. But you know what? She tried her best. She did what she could, and she went hard. And she went hard. She did a great job. And just need to know that you must be decisive and make that decision. So a drop of honey, huge concept here, is this idea that you can't force people to do things, and you guys know that, you guys got that, and that's cool. But a little bit, kind of moreover, is like this idea that if you have, some animals or some bees or whatever, like a drop of honey is so much more influential than a gallon of Gallo or just a bunch of crap that just is going to try to force them away. So if you're trying to get a bunch of bees to come together, it's going to be very, very difficult to try to force them somewhere and get a swatter and say, or a smoking gun or something like that, and slap them and say, you've got to go over here, you got to go to this place, you got to come, go that way, I force you this way, do this, do that. Force is very, very ineffective way to get people to do things. You have a mountain of force versus a little drop of honey. Just put a little drop of honey and let the bees naturally go towards it. All of a sudden, they want to be around you, right? There are going to be tons of bees. Because they have an internal drive and a desire to go towards this. They're not being forced, they're doing it at their own will. And when they do it at their own will, all of a sudden they do it with more passion, with more vigor. And take this and expand it, right? Apply it to whatever. When I was working at Subway, right? If we had a push, there's something that was pulling us towards it. So we would get a reward. Let's see. Well, we didn't actually get many rewards. We didn't even get free sandwiches, which is crazy. But pretend that we did, right? If we got some magical reward if we baked a certain number of loaves of bread or something, or I guess I baked loaves of bread, but whatever. If there was a reward that pulls you towards it, Even if it's just a little tiny reward, even if it's just maybe somebody saying great job, a little bit of recognition, a feeling of significance that comes from social call outs, that is so much more powerful than like somebody screaming at you and saying, make more bread. Because when that happens, it's begrudging. It's not your idea. It's not your passion. And most significantly, it's not your motivation. It's somebody else forcing you into it. And so because of that, your output's going to be lower. Your productivity is going to be lower. Your personal growth will be crushed. And the results will be crap because it's not from inside. It's not from you. Versus that little drop of honey, that little bit of a reward that you want to go towards, that reward that you desire at the very end. If you just put a little bit out there, and all of a sudden you want to go towards that, and you want to achieve that, and you want to avoid the pain of not getting this reward, all of a sudden, that's a significantly better motivator. When you have internal drive, internal desire, and internal push to get it done, you get it done better, faster, more effectively, and of higher quality than any other situation or any other motivating factor could ever hope to push you. Because it's so much more important for you to get out there going hard than it is for you to be just doing crap that does not matter. This is insane. So powerful. Because the instant that you can create a drop of honey for yourself or for your people that work for you, it changes everything. Great example of this. I remember long time ago, I talked to you guys about this, right? I cut sugar for like 2 years. Or maybe it's a year. I don't know. Completely destroyed sugar. And for me, like the golden drop, I guess, would have been like, losing weight and getting 6-pack abs and getting shredded and stuff like that. But like, no one forced me to do that. But here's something interesting. So ever since like a couple months ago, probably like half a year ago, I read this book. It changed my life. It's called The 4-Hour Body. And it's like the coolest thing ever. I love it. It's awesome. And there's this one thing in it called the slow carb diet. And it's like the coolest thing ever. Can't recommend it enough. It's awesome. And in the slow carb diet from the 4-Hour Body, you like eat just like chicken, or just like protein and lentils and beans. Like that's all you can eat. And it's like no sugar, like none of that crap. Like it's like really wholesome diet, and like no carbs. It's like basically just like protein and like broccoli and stuff like that. And it's awesome, right? Really great way to get energy. And fats are huge, right? Love fats. And so you get a ton of energy from protein and fats, and then basically like no carbs whatsoever, which is cool. It's really cool. It's you do that for 6 days a week. 6 days a week. And then on Saturday, you get to go berserk! I usually eat like 8,000 calories of just total junk food and shit like every Saturday. And it's amazing. It's great. I love it. The Saturday, I got sugar cookies, and then I like put icing on the sugar cookies so I could have sugar on my sugar cookies. And then I ate like an entire bag of, oh my God, it was so good. I had like icing hanging from my like dorm bed, like it was an IV bag, and I was just like putting it on the cookies, and there were so many cookies, and then there was like 4 cakes, like holy crap. It was just so much food, so many calories. That is my drop of honey every single week, right? So no sugar, no crap, healthy diet, good diet, great health. But on this last little day, got that drop of sugar, and that drop of sugar is this ridiculously awesome cheat day, right? And so even 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days of bland, and then at the end, the reward that like pulls me towards it and makes me want to do this more than anything else. Like I love eating just the same thing over and over again. It's awesome. Is this reward that you get that one day a week where you can just go freaking berserk, because it's so much more effective with spiking your metabolism and then keeping your resting rate up super high for the rest of the next week, while also simultaneously cutting the carb crap, right? So that instead of having, little bit of sugar, because that like ruins, right? If you have a little bit, it's just going to get super fat. But when you bulk it up and when you do it all at once, you go hard on one day, it has a huge spike, and then it's all back to like state of ketosis, this idea of like burning fats. Super powerful diet. Just really good book. I can't recommend it enough. It's awesome. And so like that's your drop of honey, right? Literally, it's just like, I had honey too. Yeah, I had honey on last Saturday, which is pretty sick. So yeah, it's like you want to have something that pulls you towards it instead of a ton of negativity. Because you can have so much negativity, but that negativity, it will never, never, never have as big an impact on you as just a little drop of honey to pull something towards a goal. Very powerful. Very, very cool stuff. And it's just insane. So that's sort of the big thing to take away from that. Three's a crowd. Oh, this one's so fun. Okay, cool. So Twilight is meeting with Cadance, right? So Cadance comes to town, and she comes in on the train, and she meets Twilight, and there's a Starswirl the Bearded convention. So remember, Starswirl the Bearded, he was that pony that Twilight dressed up as for Halloween that one time with Luna, and he's a really, really, really famous, like, old historic magician unicorn, right? So he used to be like the top dog for magic. And so, you got the main six here and all of Twilight's friends, and they're all with her and Cadance, and they're going to go to this huge festival, and they're going to have an amazing time. They're dressed up for Starswirl the Bearded, and it's going to be like the coolest thing ever. They're going to spend some quality time together and just have some fun, right? And so that's their goal. And so Cadance gets in, and they start to go home to get ready to go to bed for the night, and then start the festival the next day. And as they're walking away, Discord shows up at the train station, right? And Discord, he's got like this, like, he's like blue, okay? So like he's blue, and he's basically just pretending to be sick. And so like he's sneezing on everybody, and he gets like Applejack sick, and he gets Rainbow Dash sick, using, I guess, like his chaos magic or whatever. And so he gets everyone sick, and he's like super sick. He's like, I need help, I'm sick, someone needs to care for me. And after he gets everybody here sick, which is just freaking ridiculous, he's like, well, I better go to Twilight so that I can get help from her, because I'm super sick, and all of her friends are super sick too now. So he goes over to Twilight and Cadance, and then he tries to like sneeze on them, and so they use like a magic shield to block the sneeze, which was pretty freaking cool. And then they're like, okay, we'll help you, chill out. And so they bring Discord home with them, and they come inside. She's got her treehouse, and so they bring him into the treehouse, and they sit him down, and they say, okay, well, what can we do to help you cure like your blue flu, right? Like, what can we do to get you better if you're sick? And so that's kind of where this next song comes in.
What was it that you needed?
A little glass of water, please. A fresh pressed hanky if I sneeze. Some tea with honey from the bees. Whenever you can brew it.
I'll get your tea.
And while I get a little rest, a teeny tiny small request. Some codfish oil for my chest, poured from a crystal cruet.
A crystal cruet?
My goodness, I'm a nincompoop because I fear I got the croup. I need a vat of pumpkin soup and skulls made out of zinnias. Did I say zinnias? I meant silk or something shiny of that ilk. And then I'll need some nice warm milk and pastry from that zinnia. And since my stomach's feeling crummy, why not give my aching tummy something soothing, something yummy piled up with noodles? Add a slice of homemade rye with stacks of Swiss way up high. Served with sides of sweet mince pie, more basil, I need noodles.
Anything else?
I'll be grateful for your charity until the bitter end, because I've heard that tenderness is what you lend an ailing friend. Tenderness, isn't that right, friend?
Right, but...
So, who's ready for my big reprise? I'd like that glass of water, please. A magic spell to cure disease. A firm gesundhoof when I sneeze. A fresh bouquet of roses. Some lozenges will soon appease my wheezing when I start to sneeze. A wig to keep me from the breeze. And blankets for my toes. Take tweezers out of my valise and then massage my knobby knees. A bowl of peas, some extra cheese. A couple with a Pekingese. A singing harp whose name Louise. A goat on skis. A new trapeze. And more and more and more and more of these. And just because I oughta make sure I'm drinking in the right amount of fluids day and night. I wish I might have just one little thing. Oh, would you please finally bring me that tiny glass
of water? Oh man. So he goes like ridiculous, like just asking for so much help and trying to get a ton of attention from Twilight and Cadance, like a huge feeling of significance. So he's like literally drawing them completely away from this festival that they wanted to go to, and instead making them focus exclusively on him, because like he just doesn't feel important. He's getting a feeling of importance and significance from this, which is just berserk. It's crazy, and so because of that, he gets them to go through all this crap for him, and they say, look, we got to find a cure for this disease. Where can we find a cure for this disease? And he says, oh, well, there's this flower, and it's this magic place at the edge of Equestria, and if you pick this flower, then it has the cure to the blues disease, right? And so they stop everything they're doing, drop it all, quit the showcase, do everything they really wanted to do, just disappears, and they go to the edge of the world for this guy. Like literally they're flying and they're carrying him in like a chariot, and he's just like sitting there feeling so significant, so important, because he wants a feeling of significance. And so like he does that, and they get to this edge of the world, and it's at the top of a mountain. There's this huge flower. So they go to the top of the mountain and they use their magic, and they are like, okay, so this is the flower. He's like, yeah, the big flower. And they pick up this ginormous flower. It's like escaping out of the sky. And then as they pick up the flower, like it breaks the whole ground and the mountain erupts. And there's like this huge snake thing that just flies out of the mountain. And so this ginormous snake just like tries to like eat them. And like, so they have to like kill it with like lasers. And so they keep like shooting it, and they have like this huge battle. Because this thing is like trying to eat them, which is like bad. And so at the end of it, after they flown around, use their magic to kind of kill this thing, it gives out like one last dying splurt, and it like sneezes all over Discord. And then it goes back into its hole. And they get the flower. They bring the flower to Discord, and they say, okay, here's your flower, dude. How do we make it into a cure? And then he reveals that he was never sick at all. That the only reason he did this crap was because he didn't know if Twilight cared about him. And he didn't feel significant. He didn't feel important. And so because of that, he made her go to the ends of the world for him just to find a little cure for his like sickness or his disease. Just because he wasn't receiving enough attention, which is just totally bogus and complete BS. And then what's actually kind of interesting is that sneeze, the guy that sneezed on him, that sneeze apparently had a sickness in it. So then he like actually gets sick from that huge snake thing, and so he has to go back home, and then he has to actually be taken care of for like a week or two while he recovers from that actual sickness. But like he started out pretending to be sick. And then he went through this process, right, where he alienated his friends. He got rid of everyone he could find, just so that he could take away the most valuable time that Twilight like had with her sister-in-law, and just crushes what was supposed to be like their event for the weekend, just so that he can feel more important about himself, and so that he gets significance out of his relationship, which is just ridiculous, right? Terrible thing. You don't want to see this happen. And then at the end, it doesn't work out, right? Because he actually gets sick, and then it destroys a lot of his time, right? And just it hurts him a lot. But in the middle of the process, you sort of start to realize that like you got to pick the right friends, right, and make sure that the people you're hanging out with, aren't going to go through this crap. And if they are, figure out how you can overcome this and I can stop this from happening in the future. Is what they do, right? They figure out how they can get past the situation, how they can look forward and have a better future together, where they're not arguing or they're not, doing stupid stuff like this, so that they have like the best chance to succeed, and they don't have to like fight giant monsters all the time, just so that someone can feel significant and important. And similarly, you kind of see, Discord, there's like a shift on the inside, right? It's the idea that you have to be totally self-confident in your positioning and where you are and who you are, so that you have total fulfillment and satisfaction from yourself, rather than having to turn to others and destroy what they love, just to get some sort of feeling of importance. Because everybody wants a feeling of importance, and everybody wants to feel significant, but there's just not the right way to approach it when you look at these guys. Try to take away from others. You want to be able to give to others and communicate with them so that they understand how you feel, instead of going through a bunch of pointless actions to solve a problem that really didn't have to be a problem. If you just talk through it and let people understand how you feel. So just increase that emotional transparency, kind of like what Ray talks about in Principles, this idea that people should know what you're thinking, and you should know what they're thinking, so you can come to the best rational solution to the problem without going through a bunch of dangerous stuff like fighting giant monsters. Oh, this one's so fun. Okay, Pinkie Pride. So, oh, this is cool. So they got like Weird Al Yankovic to come and voice a new character called Cheese Sandwich, and so Cheese comes into town, and they have like this insane thing they do. So, like, he's basically like a party pony, right? And so he goes around just like Pinkie, throwing ginormous parties and having just the best time ever for people. And so in this episode, he comes into Ponyville, and there's like people everywhere, and it's Rainbow Dash's birthday party, right? So it's her birthday, and Pinkie's throwing this huge party for her birthday, and then Cheese comes in, and Cheese also wants to throw this huge party for her birthday. And so everyone's having a huge party, they're having a great time, and then Cheese comes in because no one's heard of Cheese before. So Cheese comes in, he's like, "Hey, look, I'm Cheese Sandwich, party pony." And then Pinkie Pie is also the party pony, right? So she's like, "Well, hey, I'm the party pony too. We should make a big giant party." But then it gets to the point where instead of working together, instead of being constructive, instead of coming together as a team, these guys, they start to have it's a pressure, right? They don't form a connection, but instead there's like a barrier between the two, and they see each other as competition rather than complementary helpers, right? And instead of trying to work towards this common goal of a cool party for Rainbow Dash as a team, as a group, instead they start to fight. They start to have a competition, and so they have this huge fight, this huge argument where they're like trying to figure out who should be the biggest party pony, who should have the most fun, who should be the person to launch the whole party. Instead of thinking about how they can work together, they think about how they can one up each other, how they can do better than one another, and force the other one out so that they can be the sole winner, right? So instead of like taking the chance to work towards what would be better for everybody, which is they work together, they really want to have an individual gain instead of the whole group winning. So they want to knock the other person out and have this huge individual boost of ego at the cost of the quality of the party, right? So you're sacrificing the actual overarching gain of having a party pony in exchange for this guy having feeling better about yourself, which is just like a shame. And so as this goes on, it's terrible because you have like this huge fight, this huge conflict between two people who have great interests for their friend of mine, but they don't see past the conflict and the competition, which should really not be competition at all and instead be collaboration, which just it sucks. It's terrible. And so the goal here, right, is to overlook this blind bias of who's best and winning, and instead work towards that big goal as a group and as a team, which is, it just sucks because they just aren't able to do it at the beginning because they only see each other as threats until Pinkie Pie makes the decision that she will sacrifice her ego for the goodness of her friend, that nothing changes. So what changes? Well, see, Pinkie Pie, she has they have this huge battle and this huge fight, and she launches this massive cake in the air, which is just awesome. And well, I'll show that real quick so you can understand what I'm talking about.
It's your birthday party, a very special day. I've got a song, it won't take long, I just wanted to say happy, 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 happy birthday to you.
If you wanna be the life of the party, but you're feeling just a little uptight, call the doctor, beg and plead. Doctor, tell me what I need. Try to put a little cheese in your knee.
Bubbles and balloons, bubbles and balloons. What's a birthday party with the bubbles and balloons? Star-shaped or trapezoid, look what I can do. Only Pinkie Pie can make a bubble shape like you.
Just let yourself go floppy. For now, this is your chance. Pretend you have no bones and do the rubber chicken dance. Hit it, boneless!
Cooler than a rubber chicken and tastier than cake. Come on, you let's party down and do the gummy shake. Hit it, gummy! You know it. Shake it.
Cause I like to make you smile, 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 yes I do. It fills my heart with sunshine all the while, yes it does. Cause all I really need is a smile, smile, smile from these happy friends of mine.
That's my song.
What do you mean? I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's it. Roll out the party cannon.
so she crushes any chance of like happiness and causes a huge divide in Rainbow Dash, and it's just terrible. And she sees this and she says, you know what, I can see the pain I'm causing. I can see the conflict that's here, and there needs to be a movement to a better party, a better way to do it. And so she literally like sacrifices her own party planning, her own self, her own ego, and she says, I will walk away from this. She walks away, and she, gives cheese sandwich Rain. She says, you know what, you got this, dude. You do the whole thing, because I care more about my friend than I do about this party. And so she lets him do it, and he does it, and he does a great job. And then eventually, she comes back, and then Cheese Sandwich reveals that in reality, he was influenced by Pinkie Pie as a kid, and pretty much everything that made him who he is came from seeing her parties when he was growing up. And they were actually much closer and much more connected than he really thought. And that's when they finally join forces, only after Pinkie has made a sacrifice of her ego, and then they can work together and boost this up to a whole new level, because they are a team. Only after one of them makes an individual sacrifice to stand down and say, look, you know what? You can have this. That's okay. I'm willing to walk away. I care, but not that much. You gotta care, but not that much. You gotta be willing to walk away. It's the same with like literally everything, like investments, assets. Like if I'm making a new investment, like I care, but not that much. Always willing to walk away, especially when harsh competition emerges. You gotta be ready to just do what you would do if you cared, but not that much. And that's exactly what Pinkie does, and it works out amazing for you, because when she walks away, she gets his respect, she understands the process, and she gives Rainbow Dash the best party possible, and therefore can come back, collaborate, and grow to a whole new level, stratospheres above where she originally saw her potential.